Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for being with us on a Monday. Bear with me as I'm a little hoarse today, but today's topic was too important to call in sick. Not that I ever call in sick. I run the business, and when you do that, you're kind of screwed. This program, powered by a lot of fantastic clients. We are an advertising agency here. We wrap about 113 clients up and down the eastern seaboard. Just fantastic to work alongside those businesses. Today's program is very important. There are a number of bills in the Virginia House of Delegates that could impact how small business owners, specifically restaurateurs, run their business models across the Commonwealth. Not only will this impact folks at the top of the pecking order, the business owners themselves, but it's going to have a trickle-down effect that I think is going to be pretty massive if these bills pass the Virginia House of Delegates. So what I've chosen to do is reached out to two friends here. One of them is Ted Norris, and one of them is Wilson Richey. And Judah, why don't we go to the studio camera and let's welcome these guys to the show and try to educate the viewing public through two guys that know the material and the topic a hell of a lot better than I do. The whole concept of this platform and this network is to put important information that impacts our community, whether it's the animal rescue community, the entrepreneurship rescue community, real estate, small business, anything in Charlottesville that could impact you, and to put it in the spotlight. So I'm going to stop talking now. This is Wilson Richey. This is Ted Norris. This guy is one handsome motherfucker right here. He looks very sharp. Why don't we go with Wilson Richey? We promote you as prolific restaurateur. I think when it's all said and done, you're an evangelist of Charlottesville. You love creating jobs. You love running restaurants. You love food and people.
Yeah.
Let me get out of the way. Who's Wilson Richey?
Well, you just said it. I've opened several restaurants in Charlottesville. Independent idea, kind of all different types. Yeah, I don't know. And I run restaurants. So I'm managing, running, or owning about 5 different restaurants right now. But through the course of it all, it's been about a dozen. And this is my career. This is what I love.
Ted Norris, friend of this program, extremely likable guy, a guy who went to Richmond on Friday and had the cojones to speak in front of a room full of delegates and media and staffers. That's badass, by the way.
Not the easiest thing in the world.
No.
Yeah.
Who's Ted Norris? Introduce yourself first.
Well, my name's Ted Norris. I'm a bar manager at my restaurant in Charlottesville. I've been a bartender been a professional bartender for 24 years. I've been in Maya now for almost 13. We're coming up on our 13th year, so I've been there from the beginning. Yeah, and then this is what I do. This is how I make my living. This is why I'm here, is to defend the way I make a living, and make sure that I can continue to pay my mortgage.
I know the feeling.
Which is, yeah, because I don't want to be here. I'm here because I have to be. I feel like I have to be.
If you guys have any comments you'd like to relay in the stream, put them in the comment section on the 12 Facebook pages. I will relay it to the fellas. Lewis Coleman, for example, says, "What's up, Ted?" Mary Ann Weinkoff, Scott Mattingly, Oberson, Rosemary Gotze. Mary Ann says, "You're looking great. I see the House of Delegates watching the program as we speak." I'm going to get out of the way. Ted Norris, why don't you take the reins here? We're going to start with an open-ended question. It's shocking to me how few people know what's going on. You did a post on your Facebook page. That's where I saw it first.
Oh, wow.
Then we made it go viral on Friday through the I Love CVille network. Then you spoke on Friday at the Virginia House of Delegates in person, I believe,
It was
right?
Monday. It was actually Monday.
Was it Monday?
Yeah.
In Monday at the Virginia House of Delegates. Okay, show's yours. Tell us what's going on.
Well, what they're currently trying to do with the bill HB 395 is it's a minimum wage bill that raises the minimum wage to $15 an hour. But what I'm here to talk about is attached to that, they will raise the minimum wage that servers and people in the industry make base pay by the hour to 70% of that, up from what is currently, I think, $213. And that seems great. If you just look at it from far away, you can go, oh, wow, everybody's going to make more by the hour. That's fantastic. But what we need to talk about is the impact that will have on the industry itself. And one point I really want to make really quick is I want to make sure a lot of people don't understand this, and even people that work in the industry don't understand this, some of them don't, is that minimum wage people in the industry that are servers and bartenders are already minimum wage employees. By law, if you make $2.13 an hour, your tipped wage over the course of your pay period needs to add up to at least minimum wage. And if it does not, the restaurateurs, the owners, are required by law to make up that difference. So you're basically like a base pay plus commission.
Yeah.
You're already making minimum wage at the base. So we have the ability to go above and beyond that at any time. It's a performance-based industry. Mm-hmm. Some of us obviously do better than others, but we are not making less. None of you are making less than minimum wage, as it is. And if that goes up to $15 an hour, that still applies.
I like it. I like it. So let's get Wilson Richey in here. Anywhere you want to go, your show.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, because some people are like, well, servers only make $2.13 an hour, and they don't realize that that's averaged in with the tips that they make. And I went through one of the restaurants that I work with and took the last pay period and averaged out what people were making, just to give people an idea. And for servers alone, the average hourly rate, and that includes from setup to breakdown, is $26.33 an hour, with a minimum of 17, and the top person making 38 an hour. So and this is the slow time of year. This is the slowest season. January, February are the hardest month. So just as an idea, when we say that everybody's making at least minimum wage, nobody's even getting close to what minimum wage is as far as tipped servers in the restaurants that I run, in my friends who run restaurants, in the small mom and pop restaurants that I know in this community. That is not something that's happening, but it may be in other places in the state. I'm not sure about that. So
we have NBC 29 and the Daily Progress watching right now. Danny Hastings says, what's up, Wilson Richey? Michael Bullock, Tyler Payne, welcome to the program. Bo Stockton, the restaurateur behind Michael's Bistro, watching the show. I see Jay Pun of Chim, of Thai Bullhouse, watching the program right now. I see 9 different restaurateurs watching the program as we speak. All right, let's talk about this follow-up question to you. First, this question. Why is this topic so under the radar? I mean, we are literally probably in the bottom of the 9th inning here.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Delegates on the floor have bills in hand that they're talking about voting and passing that could affect businesses in the Commonwealth. Is it through 2022? Through 2022, right? That's how they have it staggered.
Well, it's an incremental rate.
It's incremental rate.
It's incremental.
Well, what I have is they want to raise to $15 an hour within the next 3 years by 2023.
Okay.
And then by 2025, they want to make the non-tipped base rate 70% of whatever the minimum is at that point.
So first let me throw this question to you. Why is this so under the radar now when it has such rippling impacts?
I actually don't know the answer to that question, Jerry. I don't know why. I mean, somehow, I don't even remember how I got the information. And as soon as I started hearing about it, I started trying to make people aware of it. But I got that information late myself.
I'm a member of the VRLTA, and that's how I got the information.
Okay.
Is they started to send emails being like, "Hey guys, you need to pay attention. Your whole industry is about to change." Mm-hmm. And sending the facts over, sending the bills over, which and the bills have changed a lot. In 1 week, they're putting in new parts of the bills, they're merging bills, and so it's hard to keep up with what's exactly at risk here. But I checked on these this morning, and what I just said was as of this morning.
So what I was going to say is now we actually need to talk about what this impact is and what it does to the restaurant industry, because putting that burden on the owners to make up for that wage that they're trying to increase is where the problems arise.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We're going to have this question broken up into 2 parts.
Okay.
More restaurateurs watching right now. Kate Elwood, who had some comments on the thread, is watching, and I think she's going to share some perspective.
Oh, good.
Happily, we'll relay perspective as long as it's, in the conversation here. So 2 perspectives. One, how, if these bills are passed, will this impact restaurants from a front of the house, bar manager, tip server standpoint? Throw that to you. And the second part of the question, if these bills are passed, how will it impact restaurants from a restaurateur decision-making standpoint? And I'm going to cut to the chase. I believe you own the most restaurants in Charlottesville. I think Andy is one behind you, Andy McClure. But I think you own the most restaurants here in Charlottesville. So you throw that first question to you.
Well, I think that we may have some similar answers, because it affects the employees and it affects the owners. And they are going to have to, the business model that these guys run under will have to change. It'll have to change a lot. And it can change in certain ways that could be very destructive to what I do. They could go to fast casual style where they just have to cut servers out completely because they can't, the margins these guys run on are like 10 cents on the dollar. Not only do they have to jack prices up to the customer, but then they have to do things like either, they said, run a fast casual style where they just have to cut servers out, or they have to run a pooling system where they just have to raise us up all to across the restaurant into a base wage where we run tips across the whole board, which actually brings our ability to make more money down. Or there's what's the other thing that they do? There's where did I put it? Basically, we have the possibility of just becoming minimum wage employees, no tips involved. And that's a possibility. It has happened. Some places do that.
Yeah, and that's a higher minimum, but the wage would be a higher minimum wage. But the folks like you who go out and do really well and have a reputation in this town and who are doing great
I can't
and
survive on
following,
minimum wage.
yeah,
I can't.
You won't get the
rules
highs
are
are
set up
down
that
even
way.
though the lows are up.
Yeah.
So let's get in, give me a tangible, firsthand perspective, an actual concrete story of if these bills are passed, this is how this could impact me and the people in my restaurant. That always resonates with people. I'm not saying name names.
Yeah.
I'm just saying how you literally would have, because one thing a lot of folks don't realize, and this is small business owners everywhere.
Yeah.
We may be running businesses, but we're just trying to keep the freaking lights on.
Yes.
We're trying to pay our team members here. We're trying to make sure the obscene taxes that we pay to the city of Charlottesville on gross receipts at the beginning of the year, that bill gets paid. It's freaking brutal here. You guys have I'm talking the slimmest of margins, 3%, 4%, 5%.
Yeah.
Balls in your court.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. And not only this, but the restaurant industry has taken a lot of hits lately with the increased meals tax, with the the property values going up, and almost all of us are on triple net leases, so that those taxes come directly to us. Basically, our rents have all just gone up. And now the possibility of this. What I want to say is we're going to do everything we can to not go under. And there's been lots of examples of similar states that have done this where many restaurants have just plain out gone under. But everyone's going to fight. Of course, we're going to fight. And where that fight's going to come from or how it's going to work, I don't know the answer to that. I know that going to a fast casual model where you go into the restaurant, there aren't any waiters anymore. You go up to the bar, you order, and your food's run out to you. That's definitely one idea. I don't know.
For those that can even stay open.
For those that can even stay open.
Many restaurants will close.
There's a lot of things that I add onto my budget that I won't be able to do anymore. We're under 50 employees, but I still pay health care for my top managers. I'm not sure I'll be able to do that anymore. Paid leave, I don't think I'll be able to do anymore. And I'm not trying to create a big scary here. I'm just trying to think. My mind goes to what don't I have to pay that I'm already paying, where I can save money to kind of absorb some of these raises in the hourly rate. And so those are the sort of things that I think of. Other things is we're committed. We have a strong commitment in my group to local foods, farmers. The standard COGS, cost of goods sold for food is a 33%. We allow up to about 40% because it's a commitment to the community. We want to work with foods that might cost a little bit more, but that we believe in serving and things like that. Well, that goes away. You're going to have to run very, very tight numbers. You're going to have to look at everything, and you're going to have to find where you can do it One of the biggest problems that Ted and I have talked about is people will get fired. People at the bottom will get fired. Anyone who's
I
not.
said that in the analysis.
Yeah.
The average and below average team members at any business, you have A level, B level,
That's
C
right.
level, D level.
So basically, you're getting rid of I think every restaurant, every business probably carries a few people who aren't quite living up to the mark.
Fulfilling.
But we have an investment in helping them along. We're training them. We're in the process of training them. Maybe they're brand new. Maybe it's just not a lifestyle that they've learned to do, and they have problems doing what's needed to be done to really hit the mark of being a good employee. Well, we keep those people because we can. If these hikes go up, the people who are already struggling, they're the first to get fired. They're the first ones we can no longer support.
And let me add also to that is that, what the A-listers, the ones who are making money in this industry.
They're going too.
If I can't make the money I make now in the business, in this model, and the way this works, I'm out. Mm-hmm. Professionals like me are out. We've got, and your standard of service is going to go down.
Yes.
Because, you're going to have to keep some of those people that you didn't want to have because we're gone.
Yeah.
I got to go find another way to make a living. And it's not just so easy just to go jump into something, making the kind of money I make. I'm 50 years old, man. I can't just jump into another job. No training.
Yeah.
This is how I've lived my life for the past 24 years. That's what's pushing me on. That's what's it scares me to death.
This comment's coming in. This is kind of from the other side. Jerry, I'm a longtime server in Charlottesville. I've worked for 2 of Wilson's restaurants. Please do not use my name on the show, but I think this topic is very important to all of us. Please ask them why they think tip pulling is such a bad idea.
Well, I think you could answer that one better than I can. As a tipped employee, why do you think tip pulling's such a bad idea?
Well, some restaurants actually use sort of a tip pulling method. Mm-hmm. Now, the restaurant that I'm at, so the servers all work together and they tip pull. I'm not sure that is what they're talking about when they're talking about tip pulling becoming a problem.
Yeah.
So tip pulling would then mean is that everybody in the restaurant across the board.
Yeah, what we're talking about is the potential.
You'd have to even out everybody's pay across the entire restaurant.
That's
everybody that works in there, front, back of house, everybody. And so you basically have a base pay for the entire restaurant, and then the tips that are made will be spread out throughout the entire restaurant. So that means you're not just as a group of servers making money together and you split it, you're splitting it across the entire restaurant. So that will bring your money down.
Let me clarify. And I don't know, this is the whole tip pool, the whole house tip pool idea is, I don't know, there's legalities to this that we'd have to look into. I'm not sure it's an option or not, but one of the options would be for every dollar your salaries need to be a certain percent of sales. Like to be a successful business, there's a percentage that you have to have that your not salaries, wages, your entire wages need to be a certain percent of sales. That needs to stay the same. So if you're forced to raise people in the front of the house, then you'll end up lowering people in the back of the house, and then the kind of tip pool that we're talking about is a whole house tip pool, like Ted just explained.
Right.
So that, again, your cost of wages stay the same, and then everybody gets more money because now the kitchen guys are getting a part of your tips. Mm-hmm.
Kitchen people are affected by this too because you could kiss any kind of raise goodbye that you're trying to get in the kitchen. They can't afford to pay you what they're paying now. So it affects their wage also.
We had TV reporter try to come in the front door. We have 2 restaurateurs, it looks like, sitting outside. Glenn Harlop, 24 years of flawless mastery. Ted is the best. Glenn Harlop says, Wilson, I respect you. Heart and fist pumps. Kevin Higgins has this question for the gentleman. Are there any projections on the number of restaurants that could close because of these bills? What are your thoughts on the impact by various localities and how they could close? Instead of the various localities, because it's tough for us to project outside of what we know, Charlottesville, even answering the question, what could happen in Charlottesville is tough to do. Mm-hmm. But let's disregard the various localities, and let's just say Charlottesville, what could happen? As far as closures, if these bills go through.
Well, I have some statistics of what happened in New York. So I don't know how many restaurants here in Charlottesville. All I can say is what I know is in 2015, when they raised the tip to minimum up 50% overnight, 500 restaurants in the next couple of years went out of business. And the growth industry in New York went from 6.7% down to 1% growth in the last 5 years. So this does affect, so we've got some information from some that's coming back at us saying that a lot of the states that have done this have thrived. But who has thrived? Are we talking corporate restaurants? Because the owner-operator restaurants a lot of them are not going to be able to survive.
That's right.
We're talking corporate restaurants. That's a big difference in how are they running. How many people did they have to lay off, and how many people did they cut, and how many hours do people get now? Are the restaurants themselves doing well, or are the workers doing well? I don't know the answer to all those questions. But I think because Charlottesville specifically is a very owner-operated restaurant town. We have a massive amount of restaurants that are not corporate.
Yep.
And quite a few of those are going to be affected.
And that's what's made this town so wonderful. It's not only 100%. The restaurants, but all of the mom and pop organizations, the retailers, the small businesses are part of
and we deal with the local farms.
Of this town. Yeah.
A lot of comments coming in, so let's thank some of the viewers that are watching. I'm just going to name restaurant owners. Mitchell Behrens from Prime 109 in Lampo is watching now. Laura Fauner of Dooner's Restaurant watching the program. You have Greg Dione, who is the executive chef at Public, one of the co-owners of Pronto on the corner watching right now. John Pritzloff, the commercial real estate broker that rents a lot of space to restaurants, is watching right now. So is CBS 19 watching right now. 4 state delegates watching. This question I'm going to throw to you. If these bills are approved, how is this going to impact restaurants? And you've touched on this a little bit more, but talk about an ingredient play for me, how this is going to impact restaurants from sourcing ingredients from farms locally. And while the ingredients from farms locally are the best because they're local and we want to return the favor and support local, they're the best because they're freshest, they're right here, they're not the cheapest. And then the second part of the question, if these bills are passed, how will it impact portion sized served to customers?
Well, what we'll try to do is spread out the impact in as many ways as we can. Prices on the menu will go up. The food that we can bring in will need to go down, like the price. We'll really need to watch those margins and be within the industry standards on those margins. I kind of always fly a little loose with that because, again, when I see a local product I'm excited about, I tell my kitchen team, bring it in, we'll figure it out. You won't be able to do that anymore. So, this isn't like a, it's not going to be like a cliff. Already, when we hit the winter months, our commitment to local goes down. We need to keep the lights on. I haven't gone through a year with almost any of my restaurants where I haven't had to put money in out of my own pocket to keep it going through the winter, to keep everything going.
I'm not even going to name names, but there are established restaurants on the downtown mall that are taking second mortgages against their homes that I know of to stay open through the winter.
One of my restaurants that I own, I haven't taken a dime for in 3 years. I literally, it all goes to the staff that there. I just can't. There isn't enough for me to take any out, but I want to keep it going. And you were mistaken. Andy probably does own more restaurants than me because I've sold a lot to my managers. Bringing other people up and making small restaurant owners out of people who want to do that is something I'm very involved with also. So nowadays I actually own far less than I did 2 or 3 years ago.
Ted, jump in here. Yeah, anywhere you want to go.
I was going to say, I know some restaurant owners who actually forego their paycheck for a month or 2 or 3.
Oh, that's
so they
given.
Can afford to pay.
That's an every year given.
Payroll.
I forego my check for a month or 3 running an advertising agency. And my margins are a lot fatter than restaurant owners. So that tells you how hard it is to be a small business owner. Aaron King from Feast, welcome to the show. 14 restaurant owners on the broadcast as we speak. How do you see this question for you? I put this in the analysis on I Love CVille. We're not even 3 years removed from August 12th.
Right.
Restaurants have yet to fully recover
That's right.
Charlottesville has yet to fully recover
That's
from
absolutely
August 12th. If these bills are passed and prices go up, it's going to make restaurants less approachable and welcoming for everyone in the community. And it's going to make it even more of a barrier of entry, meaning you have to have money to enjoy these restaurants. How about the sociology of this, of how restaurants are such an important fabric of our life, especially in Charlottesville, 14 most restaurants per capita in the country, and raising prices and impacting the ability to heal post-August 12th?
Well, I mean, let's also think about the fact that right now we have a decent economy. And what happens with that economy goes down. And it always does. I mean, it's a roller coaster. So the economy is going to, I don't know if it's going to tank, but it's definitely going to go down at some point. And right now, people have money. Maybe they could go out. Maybe that's not going to be an issue for people. But as soon as the economy goes down, one of the first things they stop doing is going out to restaurants.
Yeah.
And so, you know, these places that this is happening and all these restaurants are supposedly doing so well. Well, you know what happens when the economy goes down? That could change everything. And the margins that they're running on now, you know, everything changes. So, you know, it's a problem.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think, well, like we were saying earlier, the first people that will, if we're going to need to scale down the amount of staff, the first people to go will be probably the people who need a job the most, who have trouble working. It's going to make our already criticized prices at restaurants in Charlottesville go up. They're, you know, increasing the gap of affordability. If the base wage goes up to $15 an hour, you're putting a whole new group of people on the need to seek out government subsidies because they're no longer able to work at all. Because at $15 an hour, I mean, you're hiring, you know, it's going to limit who you can hire. It really is.
Andrew Silver, one-time owner at Zocalo Restaurant, is watching in Austin, Texas,
Wow.
as we're
Yeah.
speaking. Andrew Silver's the man. Drew Kraft, who throws the No Good Beer Festival, is watching in Brooklyn, New York. Let's get to some comments here. Bo Stockton of Michael's Bistro, he's the new owner. He goes, "What the hell is a paycheck?" I love that, Bo. So Claire has got a lot of comments. Claire says this, and she's posted a lot on the stream. Okay, I'm not saying that I believe we need to immediately go to a minimum wage of $15. But what if people had more money? Would they not then go to restaurants more? This is an argument I often hear in favor of a higher minimum wage. Please ask the gentleman this question. Basically, here it is in a nutshell. And I've heard this perspective from so many people, including on my thread. I think Kate Elwood put this well. And Kate, I thought your argument was you're a tremendous writer, and you lay things out clearly. I'm not knocking anybody by any means. This is the argument. If you have more money, then you have more money to spend, and then go out to restaurants and support them. That's an argument a lot of people are making. Give us a chance to make more money, have more of a living wage, and then the money will stay invested and return to the community and to the restaurants, the server community. What do you make of that topic?
Well, I mean, my initial response to that is if all of the prices of everything that you do, if the prices of the menu go up incrementally as your wage goes up, then you've really changed nothing. You're getting more, but now it costs more to play.
It goes on the wash.
It does, because you're not only raising the prices that affect restaurants, the delivery people, the food we're getting, everybody has to raise to that $15 minimum wage. Everything goes up to cover it because everybody's working within a set COGS, a set cost of goods sold, for their wages. So that wage needs to stay the same for the business to be successful. So prices go up at every level. The price of the food coming to me, the price of the delivery coming to me, the price of everything goes up. And I don't think that it pans out. But I don't know. I have to think about that more.
I'm getting multiple text messages from your colleagues. This one, in fact, is
and
from...
thank you all for watching, all you. Yeah.
This is from your restaurateur, Peter Castiglione, who's watching. He says, let's not forget all the territory jobs that revolve around the restaurant industry. beer reps, wine reps,
Yeah.
delivery drivers,
Yeah.
Cisco US Foods, all those people that are employed, all the packers and the stockers and the truck drivers, they will be impacted by this shit as well. I can totally see Pete
Can you
saying
say
that.
those words on the
yeah,
show?
oh, we say fucking shit all the time. This experiment is dying in California and in New York. The only businesses that are surviving are the super rich celebrity chefs and the chain stores. Why don't we go down that road? We talked about this in the analysis that we did for, and Stephen Martin's got a comment he wants me to relay on air. This is what I wrote, and I'm going to throw the chain restaurant topic to you if this goes down. I said in my analysis that the only restaurants that will gain market share because of this are the Applebee's, the Chili's, the thank goodness it's Fridays, and I'm not knocking those restaurants, but I choose to spend my dollars at locally owned restaurants and not publicly traded restaurants. Why they will gain market share, cut to the chase, they have economies of scale.
That's right.
And back-end infrastructure that the local mom and pop, for lack of a better phrase, does not have. So because of those built-in efficiencies, they're going to erode share from mom and pops and take it to their side of the fence. That topic to you.
I don't know how to say it any better than that. I mean, that's, kind
It's
of
100%,
the point I was
yeah.
trying to make earlier. The corporate restaurants can survive this. It's the local restaurants that are going to struggle. And they'll bring on people, again, when you if you reduce our ability to make tips as a living and the ability to make as much money as we can make doing this, the service that you as a customer is going to receive is going to go down.
That's right.
Because there's no incentive for people in the industry to give good service. I mean, look at the European models, which is a whole different market. They are set up completely differently. But, the service isn't always the best because there's no incentive for these guys to, and that's tip means to ensure prompt service, and it works. It gives us it all. I mean, I am who I am. So when I'm behind the bar, I'm not.
You're gonna bust your
I'm not
ass no matter what.
I'm
Yeah.
not being nice to you because I want your money. I mean, I do, but I'm just who I am. I treat everybody the same. But there's an incentive because we can make more money. Again, it's like it's a commission-based kind of job, and if you're good at it, you can make money doing this. And I just feel that, in corporate restaurants can hire just anybody that can go up to a table and give you water and get you food and then walk away. I mean, that's...
If in the best case scenario, this is something that, all the people who are for it, say they're right, in the best case scenario, it will work over time. There will be a learning curve, and that learning curve is what's going to put all the mom and pops under and let the corporate guys who can take it, who can stand that learning curve, they're going to be the ones that kind of, survive the test.
Right.
So, and that's best case scenario. I really don't even think there is a best case scenario along those lines. But another thing that I've heard is a lot of this scrutiny is coming from the Northern Virginia sort of more, cosmopolitan area. And to apply that level of scrutiny to the rest of the state, I mean, Charlottesville's closer to that. Richmond, of course, is closer to that. But to small rural towns where there's restaurants, for this to hit them, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame when you compare a little town restaurant to something in Northern Virginia, a big corporate.
Right, and again, even those rural places are required to pay those servers minimum wage if they're not making it through the tips.
That's right.
So it's already there. The only change would be putting the burden on the restaurants themselves to make up for some of that money.
The reason Wilson is talking about Northern Virginia and D.C. as almost a separate ecosystem is because of the massive density of people, the ridiculous amounts of potential customers, and the fact that they earn more money per year on average than folks in the rest of the Commonwealth. So it's literally an apples to oranges comparison. Andrew Silver is giving props to Peter Castiglione from Austin, Texas. He says, "Great point, Petey." So he passed that along.
Let's see the love.
Yeah, that's the love right there. Billy Kernick of Vivi's Cakes and Candy, the bar manager also at Lost Saint, says, "I love these guys." and what they're watching on the show. Rachel Pennington from the Pie Chest, welcome to the program. G. Milo, who one time owned the Virginian, he says, great input from Wilson and Ted. As the former owner of the Virginian on the corner, I agree 100% with what these guys have to say. Frida Hill has this question, and I believe she has either family or significant others tied to the back of the house, the kitchen staff.
Okay.
What's the deal with the back of the house and the kitchen staff, and how could they be impacted by this as well? That's a good question. Can we talk specifically about the back of the house? Mm-hmm. How could they be impacted if these bills are passed or not passed?
Well, as I was saying earlier, and again, this is assuming the whole thing goes through, $15 an hour minimum wage and tip wage, going up to 70% of that. That would be I think it's $10.50 an hour would be 70% of 15. So on average, my kitchen makes $13.86 an hour. That's the average. No one makes under 11 in my kitchen. So I mean, that's a minimal. If I go to 15 from 13, that's a buck and a half on average. That's survivable. But to take the front of the house from $2.13 to $10.50 is a lot to bear. And so, again, how this would affect the back of the house is if the cost of wages goes up that much, I need to get rid of people. And Charlottesville's my community, and I work with my community, and I bring in guys who work in kitchens, and that's one of the only jobs that they can get. And sometimes they don't have the best skills. Sometimes they don't have the best work ethic.
Can I cut to the chase?
Sure.
A lot of times, folks in the back of the house have felonies on their record.
Yes.
They cannot get jobs anywhere else.
But we hire them.
Is that safe to say?
That's safe to say.
Yeah.
And we restaurants have been traditionally a place where guys like that can go and make money, and there's a little bit of a trade-off. I'll bring you in at 10, I'll bring you in at 11, and there's a trade-off because I have to spend the next few months of my life teaching you how to do this job and how to, show up on time and do all these other things. But I'm investing in those folks, and they're investing in me. And I need that flexibility. I just need that flexibility to make it work for guys like that. And if I have to pay 15, I can't take that chance anymore. I just can't take that chance. Those guys don't get hired anymore. They're creating a new class of unhireable people, I think, and adding them to people who need government subsidies.
And even if it does go up, say the minimum wage does go up to 15, and then they pull the tipped minimum up also. Yeah. Another way that could affect the back is, when these guys are out looking for jobs in the first place, first of all, so you're going to have to pay $15 an hour. You're going to have to hire them in probably at $15 an hour. Yeah. And with little chance of being able to raise their wage over time. Yeah. Because you're having to hold the place together with trying to pay everything across the board. Your ability to give raises is also to your managers, to your back of the house, to pretty much anybody is cut. I would think, right? Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of comments coming in. We'll get to more comments. Mark Dorsey. Great work, guys. I totally agree with both of you. He's watching from Little Star. Billy Kernick is giving more props here. We love you, Billy, on the show. David Reed, this is not just about raising minimum wage, David Reed says. It is about the impact on servers who will no longer make the tips they need to live. Should the minimum wage bills carve out the tip issue? So David Reed's offering some perspective. How about this one? This is from Restaurateur Bo, Michael's Bistro. I'm going to relay his topic in totality. The tip pulling, he goes, Jerry, tip pulling results in 100% of gratuity being taxed as they are received via check from the business. How many servers what 100% of their gratuities taxed? We report what they tell us, but let's be honest. They don't tell us everything. I'm going to say this so you guys aren't in hot water. Yeah, I've worked at a number of restaurants to put myself through UVA, cover tuition, a number of them locally. And the only tips that I reported were credit card tips. Cash tips I never reported. I said that. You guys did not say that. So basically what Bo is saying, if we go through tip pulling and they're allocated these funds through a paycheck, then the restaurant's going to have to tax every iota of that tip. As opposed to, now the percentage changed When I was going through as a server, it was probably more 50-50 cash to card. I would imagine it's a shitload more cards and plastic now
It is.
than cash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
cash tips are much
rare.
rarer than they used to
Are much
be.
rare.
20% maybe?
I don't know, but
Hard to say.
it's not nearly what it used to be at all. So
Michael Bullock says this, and I believe he runs an audio-visual music company that services restaurants in the community.
Yeah.
He says they can add local musicians to the list of people that will face a tough cut
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
because of this. Okay.
oh yeah, music. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just music's another cost of doing business. I mean, that's another place where we'll look to cut the costs of doing business. I mean, absolutely, Michael. He's 100% right.
We have a number of vineyard owners that are watching this, including one vineyard owner in Keswick that says, and Jerry, I read your analysis on the impact these bills could have on the restaurant community. I very much agree with your number 6 in that restaurants go hand in hand with other categories like wineries and vineyards. Basically what I said, and I'll throw it to you, Ted, restaurants are a combined experience. Retail, restaurants. Go have brunch, shop. Go have lunch, shop. Go to the downtown mall, have some drinks, go to the restaurant, shop on the downtown mall. Same with wedding venues, same with vineyards, wineries, same with music venues. People combine restaurants with other stuff for fun. That's what date night's all about, going to the movies. If you make restaurants more expensive, less people are going to spend money at your local shops. Less people will spend money at your local music venues and your vineyards and your wineries. So the trickle-over effect is significant. Anywhere you want to go here, Senor Norris.
I'm not sure where to go after that. Yeah, again, I agree. I think you said it pretty well. Yeah, I don't know where to.
Peter, Maya restaurant owner, said 94% of tips at Maya restaurant are through plastic. 6% come in through cash. He just put that on the stream
There's the
right
number.
now.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wilson, a lot of folks are asking what you would do from expanding to new restaurants. Would you even be willing to start new restaurants if bills like this pass?
No, not at all.
I mean, how hard is it?
I'm already not making enough money from restaurants.
I talk about this all the time on this show,
Yeah.
how difficult City of Charlottesville and local government makes it to be a small business owner.
They do these days. These days, I mean, not when I started, but these days it just doesn't seem to be love coming down from the local government for what we're doing and what we're bringing to the town.
Yeah, I'm paying taxes on gross receipts at the beginning of the year. They just increased my real estate taxes on this building 14%. I got a 14% increase bill in the mail on this for doing nothing. That comes nowhere else but here. Water going higher. My Wi-Fi is going higher. My Dominion bill for electric is going higher. The guy that blows the courtyard outside once a week, he got a raise.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. I mean,
Yeah,
talk about
the
that.
cost of being open just keeps going up.
Yeah.
They just keep pulling and taking, and I don't know if it's a perception that since restaurants are such a big pop deal and TV and things like that, we're not Mario Batali's down here. Like the perception is that if you're in restaurants, you're making tons of money. It's just another small business. Especially when you do it locally and in the way that we do it, and especially this town, that I think it's great that this town has so many restaurants. But you got to understand, having so many restaurants means that we're all splitting a very small community. So it's, I mean, it does seem like the price to play just keeps going up because there's some perception that we have it. And we don't, and they're going to find out the hard way that we don't, I think, at some point if it doesn't get checked.
This comment from Lindsay Daniels. And I said I would relay every side on the show, as long as it was respectful and just kind of carried the course of the discussion, and I think Lindsay's does. So this is important. Okay. Hi, Jerry. This is not representative of any place I've ever worked at or owned myself. It's simply from me personally, Lindsay Daniels. I'd rather not jump in the discussion with the other arguments you are making here. There is one blaring fact I see missing from this conversation, however. None of you all are talking about sexual harassment, almost always directed at women in tipping culture. There's statistically and academic support to show that a tipping structure creates more frequent and more severe causes of sexual harassment. Just Google all the correlation between tip positions and sexual harassment incidents. What about all our young women who are putting up with lewd comments, customers hitting on them, or even worse? I've experienced it, and I've seen hundreds of girls who have experienced it, and I firmly believe that if service industry jobs were treated as the professional jobs they are, instead of at the whim of a fickle and often sexist customer, then women would be safer and more respected in the industry. I'm going to throw that topic to you before I do, and I will speak for the gentleman here. Lindsay, we thank you for the courage and the vulnerability you shared with sharing this perspective on this show in a very public setting. It's not easy to share a perspective like that, and I thank you for having that courage. That topic, your thoughts on that? Anywhere you want to go?
Well, I think what Lindsay's talking about there is going to the model that Danny Meyer, I think, kicked off in New York, where there's just doing away with the tip and just making it an hourly, making the service industry an hourly wage thing. I mean, that's the point that she brings up is, I mean, that's a perspective that's extremely important that needs to be considered for that. But that's a complete change in how restaurants work altogether, and I don't know how it's gone up there. I have not heard that it's gone well. Certainly, that's the way they do it in Europe. But that would completely change the industry, and maybe that is something that we all need to look at and think about how to get to in a way that doesn't kill the industry at the same time.
And I'll throw the topic to you. And basically, when it comes down to it, and I've seen this firsthand, I saw this a couple weeks ago by one of my buddies. He had entirely too much to drink. Mm-hmm. He's at a restaurant. We're at a table, and he thought his tip, it was a big bill, he was covering it, and he thought his tip with our very beautiful server entitled him to flirtatious type activities, almost as if this was like behavior that you could see at like a gentleman's club, as opposed to a solid restaurant in Charlottesville. And it was extremely unfortunate. And us, the guys at his table, we chastised him for it, but I still saw it. Yeah. Anywhere you want to go with this topic?
Well, I think it's an absolutely valid subject. You know, I don't obviously deal with it from my end. So it's and I've seen it for sure. And I think it's a valid topic. I don't have much of an argument for it, other than the fact that I think it needs to be addressed when situations like that happen. They need to be addressed immediately by the owner, by the manager, by the and people need to be.
Kick people out.
I mean, it's not going to completely stop, male pigs out there that are going to act like that towards an attractive server. I mean, tips definitely, I'm sure, just like you're talking about, when somebody has, they're putting their money out, hey, I'm going to give you a big tip, so now you got to, how are you going to act towards me now? Of course.
It's almost like leverage.
Yeah, they
for
feel
some
like,
people.
because, some guys are jackasses.
Yeah, they're jackasses.
I think, I don't know, all I can say is that needs to be addressed by the house immediately, and those people need to be. I mean, I don't really have an answer for this one. I don't know the statistics on it. I just know that it's valid, and I appreciate it. And that's, I don't know how else to address this.
That's fair. This topic coming in from Stephen Martin. Stephen Martin says, and let me cue it up right here. Stephen Martin has run The Box for Chas Webster. He's an experienced guy in restaurants. If they raise the minimum wage, which I think they should, they could still keep server pay at $2.13 an hour, but would have to pay the difference if tips do not provide them with at least $15 an hour for the pay period. This, to me, would be a compromise restaurants could live with. What do you think?
That's exactly it.
I'm not against a rise to the minimum wage. I just go what's in front of them right now, $15 an hour. That's what I'm against.
That's the point that I made in the beginning.
I agree with him. Yeah.
That's exactly the point I made. You are a minimum wage employee as a tipped employee already. You're already the establishment is by law to pay you minimum wage if you don't make that up in tips. If the minimum wage goes up to $15 an hour, that still applies. So, I mean, yes, that's exactly right. It's so.
MJ Hammond says, you rock, Ted. Gregory Lewis, who from your restaurant, right? He says, what about those skilled chefs? Doesn't $11 to $13 an hour seem unreasonable in a town like Charlottesville? And he's asking about skilled chefs and back of the house chefs. I think that's a good point.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The numbers I put out earlier was the whole kitchen averaged together.
Yeah.
The top guys are not making that.
Kate Elwood says 70% of tip workers are females, so that's a very valid point. Laura Fonner, executive chef and soon-to-be owner this summer of Dooner's Restaurant. It happens from front of the house to back of the house, just as I had unfortunately learned this past week. She was sexually harassed by someone pretending to be a construction worker.
Yeah, he just walked into the
He
restaurant.
walked into our kitchen.
Really?
They're trying to
Yeah.
get their parking lot painted for parking spaces, and someone had a fake construction vest on, walked into the kitchen, and did more than sexually harass her, inappropriately touched her, and she put that on Facebook, so I'm not speaking out of turn. She says it happens from the front of the house to the back of the house, just as I unfortunately learned. Increasing the minimum wage and the topic in general doesn't go hand in hand. Some people are just pigs, and unfortunately this industry attracts the best of them. I've seen that firsthand. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that are jackasses. I think that's safe to say.
That is safe to say.
So we're 55 minutes in. Someone from your restaurants added this. This may be one of your managers. 94% of payments at my restaurant and bar are tips. 94% of total payments are credit card.
Right.
If you add the tip and the tax to that, we're at 112%. We also report all cash tips. For those businesses that do not report all cash tips and servers that do not report all cash tips, that is on them, not the industry. Let's not assume that restaurant underreport cash tips. All right, he's hedging, he's saving, I respect that.
No, absolutely.
Paul MacArthur says this: all these struggles are shared by local retailers as well. Taxes on gross receipts are the worst because the government doesn't suffer at all when the net goes down due to higher wages, rents, et cetera, and overhead. And I totally agree with this. I'm going to throw this to you. It's bullshit. I'm paying taxes in January on my projected gross for 2020. And I do an estimate. I think I'm good in business.
Yeah.
So I do an estimate that is at least last year's gross, oftentimes 5-7% higher than last year's gross.
Yeah.
I've paid those taxes for the year in January.
Yeah.
So there's the opportunity cost of the money being already spent, as opposed to having the money in the account and paying month to month to help me with cash flow. And there's also the what if or the possibilities of my estimates for that year. Knock on fake IKEA here. There's also the what ifs of what if my estimates were wrong and we actually go the other
Or
way.
what if the economy changes?
Right.
Or,
We have an election coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if the economy changes?
Yeah.
That topic.
And we're maxed out. Well, I've said since the assessment raises went up, I've been saying that the city is catching up to the growth that they saw pre-August 17. They have not taken in the last 2.5, 3 years of how things have kind of leveled out. So they saw this great growth coming in from 15, 16, raised everything, but it's not quite still there. It's not at the same level. And it's stretching people, and if the economy turns, there's so many things coming at us with the meals tax, with these wage hikes that could tip the scale at any point. I mean, it's not a robust business model, what any of us are doing in the mom and pop industry in downtown Charlottesville or Charlottesville in large.
Why don't we do this? You have more people than I can count. CBS 19, the CVille Weekly, NBC 29, and The Progress watching. I see delegates watching. Close by a final word. You guys can go anywhere you want. The show is yours. We're 55 minutes in.
Okay.
You've crushed it. You get the show as long as you want to talk about anything you want to talk about.
I just want to say if you agree that we need to pull the tipping wage out of this bill, to please Google who is my legislator, go through that, find out who your legislator is, and call them today and tell them to remove the tipping portion out of HB 395. So anybody in the industry that actually agrees with our position, please do that, because this is all going down tomorrow. We've already been able to put a hold on it once, and I know that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So, this is all going down tomorrow. Call today. please. That's what I got.
Good. It was great. It was great. And thank you for putting this on my radar. I did not know.
Thank
Seriously.
you, Jerry, for picking it up.
I did not
Appreciate
know.
it.
Anywhere you want to go, show's yours.
Well, I want to thank all the folks that are watching, especially all the industry people who are chimed in and commented, and thanks even for the opposition comments. I mean, this is a discussion, and it bears weighing each side. I think none of us are. We all just want to find a way forward that works for everybody, and so that's my point. Is I think what's in front of them right now does not work. But finding some sort of something that does work is certainly, I think, something that we're all open to. But I agree. Go out. Please send something today. This is happening right now. So,
Tony, Melville, thank you, Ted and Wilson, for your hard work. I'm behind you guys, and we'll support you guys in your efforts.
Thank you.
A lot of these comments are coming in that I don't have time to get to. This is what I'm going to do here. First, I want to thank Ted and Wilson for having the courage and the insight and doing their homework so they could offer this perspective on the show. Josh Hunt, welcome to the program, Beer Run in Cardinal Hall. I'm going to close the program by letting you know where you can find the show so you can rewatch it from start to finish and learn even more. We'll archive it on ilovecville.com. For the next 2 weeks, we will syndicate it across the I Love CVille network, which is 17 Facebook pages, 17 Twitter accounts, an e-newsletter that goes out every morning to 125,000 inboxes. We have the third largest Instagram community in Central Virginia behind UVA, and the official Charlottesville Instagram page, I Love CVille's third. We'll turn it into a podcast on iTunes today, and then the full show here. All I wanted to use this platform for is to throw topics that maybe are a little bit more difficult to comprehend and make them approachable. And use this, I Love CVille, to be the water cooler of Charlottesville, where you can go to the water cooler and learn about Charlottesville. And once you learn about your community, it's going to be a better community to live in. I think if you know more about it, you're going to want to get more involved. I close with the same message every single show. I ask everybody that's watching to please embody the golden rule. I don't make this about religion. I just make it about treating the animals and the people in your life how you want to be treated yourself. It's the golden rule, guys. Thank you to Wilson and Ted. My name is Jerry Miller. My voice will be stronger tomorrow, I promise you. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So much.
You did great. Thank you. Thank you. One more thing we got to do is take a photo.